versus the number of times you actually sell them equipment. Is anybody measuring that? Because a lot of dealers say, Bob, he said, we just need more people. And I go, well, what's your closing ratio? And they go, I don't know. I go, well, then you don't know if you need more people or not. You probably have enough people come in, you're just not doing what? Closing the ones that come in because you don't know anything about sales. Right? So you think your job is just to puke forth information on people and pray they buy. That's not how it works. So I tell people again, so if we don't know what our closing ratio is, we don't really know if we need more people or not. Most of you have plenty of people coming in, you're just not closing a high enough percentage of it. And again, I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later in the program by building what we call the yes momentum up in the process. But everything has a measurement to it. Everything we do is a process, and once we have a process, we can do what? Measure. You can't manage what you don't measure. So I tell people again, you don't know if your service department's good or bad, or why it's good or bad, because you're not doing any measurements. How many people have your technicians clocking in and clocking out on every work order they do? Okay, and why would we want to do that? Your technicians won't enjoy it, right? Because you don't really know how much time it really does take to do a job. You just ask them about how much time you did it. Oh, it wasn't more than 30 minutes. You go, well, then how come we've got 4 hours missing today we didn't bill anybody for if every job was only 30 minutes? I tell people, so we clock and we measure all that stuff. That's how we get ourselves good. So that's a part of it. And then again, we have to know what you expect from your people in your departments. And we're going to take a break here real quick. So I tell people again, so we have to have processes in place, which I'm going to give you. All right, so I'm going to share with you our process. And then I says, then we have to let people know what's expected of them. So I let my service techs know that this is what I expect of you. I expect as a service tech for you to be at least 85% efficient. So for every hour you're turning a wrench, I expect at least 85% of that time billed to somebody. Okay? That's what you have to be at to keep your job in my shop. So you understand that. So I tell when I do the week in the shop, I let everybody very clear. I said, here's the deal. Right, you're going to be able to make more money, but in doing so, there's an expectation. I expect you to be at least 85% efficient. So when you're on a job, I expect at least bill 85% of all your time on that job out. That's the minimum. It's a B. 85% was a B in high school and college. It's a B in a shop. So that's the number. Okay? Service managers, I expect you to recover at least at 85%. Okay, now we're going to talk about recovery rate because most of you are maybe not familiar with what that is, so I'll talk about that. But recovery rate is the time I'm buying versus the time I'm selling. So if I have 2 technicians in my shop and I'm paying them 8 hours a day apiece, how many hours of time am I buying? 16. Okay, I expect you to sell at least how much of that 16 hours? 85%. Okay, so if you're going to keep your job as a service manager, you're going to have to do what? Everybody knows, so there's no surprises. I tell people that everybody is very clear, this is what it has to be here. You go to the parts department. I expect my parts department to grow by a minimum of 10% per year, so my parts manager understands that. It's not hard to grow a parts department by 10% because every piece of equipment you have out there is 1 year older every year, and every time a piece of equipment becomes 1 year older, it starts consuming more what? Parts. There's a natural 10% growth in a parts department every year. Every year, parts prices are a little bit higher, so you get a natural growth. You didn't really make any more money, but it grew 2 or 3% just because your parts were what? 2 or 3% more expensive. You didn't make any better margins on them because your cost went up and everything went up accordingly. So I said 10% is easy growth in there. I expect you to get at least a 12 to 13% growth every year in your parts department. How am I going to do that? I said, well, you can do it first of all by working closer with your service department. Because who's the largest consumer of parts in your whole dealership? Who buys more parts from your parts department than anybody else? Your service department does. What percent of the parts sold on the average in a dealership at OPE is sold to their own service department? A little over 30%. So a little over 30% of all the parts that you sell at your dealership is consumed by your own service department. By the way, we add 5% on all the parts we sell to our own service department, just as a point. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So if you buy a part in our service department, you will have spent 5% more for it than if you bought that same filter across the counter. And we'll talk about that why in just a little bit here. So if I want to grow my business, the easiest way for me to grow my parts business is to help the service department do what? Figure out a way to do more what? Service. Because for every dollar of labor you sell, on the average in outdoor power, you will sell 80 cents to $1 worth of parts. So let's use just $1 to make it simple. So for every dollar of labor I sell, on the average, I will sell $1 of parts with that $1 of labor. If I want to increase my parts sales by $50,000, the easiest thing for me to do is help who do more what? If I can just get the shop to produce $50,000 more labor, what automatically happens to my parts department? it goes up $50,000. It goes up $50,000. And what kind of margins am I giving on my parts? Better. Do I ever have a service person upset about the price of a relay PTO switch or electric clutch? They just are glad you what? Have it. See, I got the highest margins, the best customers who never complain. They're just glad I what? I have it. So I tell people again, so that's the easiest way to do it. And the easiest way for service and parts to grow service is to pre-sell it when you sell the whole bit. See, that's the key. Remember, you're in a dealership and all pieces function together. Most of you guys sell whole goods and you never go ahead and sell the labor or the service that's associated with the first service on it. You should be doing that. And I'm going to talk about using that then as a negotiation tool a little bit later on. So if you have to negotiate money away, we don't negotiate cash, we negotiate the first service. So if you need to knock $200 off something and the first service on that machine was $200, would you be better off giving away the $200 service or $200 of cash? Why? Because $200 of service doesn't really cost me how much? $200. What's $200 of cash cost me? $200. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you understand that? So if I can work with my service and parts department to put together menu pricing packages for every piece of equipment I have, right? So on that zero-turn mower, what's the annual service on that zero-turn mower? What's the annual service on that tiller? What's the annual service on that? What is that? If I can go ahead and build those packages together as a parts manager, working with the service manager, and go ahead and price all that stuff out, we can have a package already built for every piece of equipment we sell that we could sell as a part of that first set. Now, I may not need to negotiate it, but if I do, then I'll negotiate off of that package. And by the way, when you leave here today, I will give you the menu pricing for all your equipment. And I'll also give you a flat rate guide for your shop. So if I'm telling it to you, I'm going to give you the tools to do it, all right?